The Wanderers would like to thank the Waterways Management Commission for allowing this program. C. Mello brought Maria Connor, who is a member of the Wanderers, Derek Freites, the cameraman for DCTV, and myself out along the shores of Dartmouth. Although there are approximately 80 miles of shoreline in Dartmouth, we did hit upon a small portion of that. The 80 miles includes all the inlets and rivers of the town. This program did bring us to the major parts of the shoreline, and we hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
We started our tour of the Dartmouth waterways from Davis and Tripp Marina at Bridge and Elm Street, at the end of the Paid and Aram Bridge, one of the 3 commercial marinas for boat storage in the town of Dartmouth, and the village of Paid and Aram on lovely Apponeontset Bay. This is the Isabella. It's a Grand Banks style fishing sailing vessel built by William Green for his family passing by South Wharf, former home of Concordia, current home of South Wharf Yacht Yard, and the New Bedford Yacht Club, with the only fuel dock for boat fuel in Paid and Aram Harbor. Originally the Paid and Aram station of the New Bedford Yacht Club, the original or base station for the New Bedford Yacht Club, was on Pope's Island in New Bedford Harbor. This was the summer satellite station. Now the only home for the New Bedford Yacht Club and the only continuously operated yacht club in the town of Dartmouth. Our harbor has approximately 1,000 moorings for the storage of vessels, privately owned vessels, in the harbor of Paid and Aram. Apponeontset Bay is bisected by the bridge, the Paid and Aram Bridge. We have the north or upper harbor and the south harbor with access to Buzzards Bay. That's the vessel Arapahoe, probably one of the finer examples of the classic Concordia yawl that made Paid and Aram Harbor and South Dartmouth famous in boating circles. Concordia yawl was built in Germany and finished at the South Wharf station. This particular vessel, the Arapahoe, is a star in the movie Message in a Bottle, starring Kevin Costner. I think for the movie she was renamed the Kathleen, refurbished for the movie, chartered for a year by the movie company for filming, and returned to Paid and Aram in that fine varnished form that you see there. Last Concordias were probably imported in the 1960s. Another Concordia, I believe the Snowbird, de-rigged and ready for hauling and storage for the winter. Concordia trucks these up Gulf Road to its new location for maintenance and storage. The community of Bayview is on the western shore as you enter or exit Paid and Aram Harbor. It was once a summer cottage community for the city of New Bedford. Now year-round and summer cottages greet the entrance to Paid and Aram Harbor. On the western shoreline, heading south, you're run by birch fields, South Nonquit, also treetops in that area, lovely homes with lawns that sprawl out into Buzzards Bay. In an area just south of treetops and Birchfield is what looks like a garage on the waterfront with doors that lead right into the bay, known to local fishermen simply as yellow doors, spot popular for fall bass, bluefish, and other fishing just outside the harbor. Continuing further south out of Paid and Aram Harbor, you come upon Nonquit. Again, a summer cottage community with Victorian-style homes beautiful and open views of the bay. Nonquit, which is a gated private community, has its own swimming area. Hidden behind the rocks known as Bare Kneed Rocks, the Nonquit community has a private beach house, swimming raft, and swimming pier. There are a few moorings behind those rocks, accessible from the beach or the beach community. Round Hill, one of the more exclusive areas of Dartmouth. When Colonel Green's mother, Hetty Green, the Witch of Wall Street, died, she left him a fortune between $100 and $200 million. The mansion at Round Hill was completed in 1921 at a cost of $1.5 million. Colonel Green established his own radio station at the site. He opened the grounds to scientists, mostly from MIT. He built an airfield complete with moorings and hangar for blimps. That was leased by MIT for aerial experiments conducted at Round Hill. The New Bedford whaling ship Charles W. Morgan, now on display at Mystic Seaport, was once owned by Colonel Green and docked at Round Hill. The dock still exists at the northern end of the town beach. In 1948, after Colonel Green's death, his sister Sylvia donated the entire property to MIT for educational and military purposes. MIT erected an antenna on top of a 50,000-gallon water tank on the site. The giant dish antenna stood as a local and maritime navigational landmark until current owners had it demolished in 2007 to build a home on the area specifically known as Round Hill. In 1964, MIT sold the estate to the Society of Jesus of New England, the Jesuits, as a retreat. Part of that estate was sold to the town of Dartmouth for a town beach in 1968. The rest of the estate was sold in 1970 to a local woman. She in turn sold it to private developers. It is now a private gated community with condominiums and townhouses. This house is located on the end of Michon Point, which juts out into Buzzards Bay, probably the southernmost part of Dartmouth. The home is built on a former bunker used in World War II for deterring and detecting enemy shipping, U-boats, and other activity entering Buzzards Bay. The home at the tip of Michon Point began construction several years ago. It has a guest house on the property and would have clear views of the sunrise and sunset in the summer. Okay, that is a Little River Bridge, which spans the entrance to Little River, the end of Potomska Road. Michon Point, also a private gated community, runs south from the area of Little River and Little River Bridge, another gated community of summer homes primarily that stick into Buzzards Bay. We're looking at Deepwater Point, the entrance to the Slocum River. This area of Deepwater Point at the entrance to the Slocum River is the home of Angelica Russell. She passed away recently, unfortunately, but a very generous woman to the town of Dartmouth. Her family is responsible for such donations as the Lloyd Center and Demorest Lloyd State Park. Giles Creek in the Slocum River is a shallow, large expanse just to the west of the entrance of the Slocum River. Slocum River itself has 2 miles of woodland trails visitors can walk before reaching the western shoreline of the river. There are more than 3,000 feet of critical shoreline and salt marsh habitat that are protected. There are a few private docks that jut out into the Slocum River. The Lloyd Center itself sits high above a perch on the eastern side of the entrance to the Slocum River. The Lloyd Center for the Environment runs educational programs for school-age children, families, and children of all ages. On any given day, you could see classes from neighboring schools on the shoreline exploring the environment and the habitat of many species that we call the Slocum River home. They also host an annual rowing event, the Slocum River Regatta, and practice area for several of the local rowing club teams. On this early fall trip up the Slocum River, we were able to see the start of the fall foliage, and some of the colors are visible at the shoreline. Much of the Slocum River is surrounded by greenery, and at this particular time of the year it gets colorful as seen from the waterway. Creek on the eastern side of the entrance to Slocum River. Rocks which seem to rise out of the river itself remind me of some of the quarries and shoreline of Maine. Giles Creek itself is a large body of water that leads up to the backside of the Demers-Lloyd State Park. Demers-Lloyd State Park, which is on the western side of the entrance of the Slocum River, is a state-owned public park. Slocum River is a protected area for many species. The trumpet swan that you see here is abundant, as are the osprey or fishhawks. Slocum River is a large body of water. It is sparsely populated. As we make our journey north up the river, you'll see several homes that are spread pretty far apart. The lack of any congested development has maintained a lot of the natural beauty and natural habitat of the river. There are very few boats that are moored or kept on the Slocum River. The entrance at Deepwater Point is a large sandbar making access from the river to the bay limited by tide. Most of the vessels you'll find on the Slocum River are shoal draft or centerboard sailboats. Down the Slocum River, across from the Gaffney Road area, you'll see that farmland still exists and seems to exist in harmony with the maritime industry or the maritime environment that is the Slocum River. That particular farm is in the area of Horseneck Road and has a great view of the Slocum River. At about its widest point, the Slocum River near Gaffney Road has a few more houses. It also has a few smaller islands in the center, one of which is Pelegs Island. Pretty flat area that youth have explored for years. Just a fun place to visit in a small boat. This area where the pavement meets the sand is the end of Gaffney Road in Dartmouth. That's on the eastern shoreline, one of the wider points to the Slocum River. A lot of people will also explore this river with canoe and kayak. Access to the Slocum River for the public can be had at the end of Gaffney Road or at the Horseneck Landing near Duval's Country Store. Either one of those locations would be suitable for putting in smaller paddle boats, rowboats, kayaks, canoes. Good starting points to explore either end of the river. Quite a few individuals enjoying the river in paddle boats. This day being after September 15th, state law does require they wear their life jackets when paddling kayak or canoe. As you see, each of these individuals seems to know what they're doing out there. The state, it's May 15th to September 15th, they encourage it. September 15th to May 15th, you're required to wear a life jacket on a paddle boat. The river is influenced by tides. The river is fed by the Pascomanset River to the north, which brings fresh water in from the northern part of town, and Buzzards Bay to the south with tidal salt water, making it a large estuary and again a suitable habitat for a lot of fish and fowl. This is all brackish water, and depending on which end of the river you're at and the tide and weather influences determines the amount of salinity and the species you might find in any section of the river. As we head about as far north as we can navigate on the Slocum River, we pass by on the eastern side the Horseneck Park, maintained by the Dartmouth Park Department. This area has swings, picnic area, and tennis courts, which are accessible by car from Horseneck Road. The park itself has a dirt ramp area that leads into the Slocum River, again providing access for smaller boats, kayaks, canoes, and car-top size boats. The Park Department has also installed an environmentally sound and renewable energy style public bathroom in this facility. You can see the solar panel on the roof of that green shed. As we pass by the Park Department property and the tennis courts, we reach the end of the navigable waterway for this vessel that we're upon. The waterway does continue further to the waterfalls behind Duval Country Store. And as we swing and head back south, you can see how close we actually get to Horseneck Road. water in this area is strongly influenced by the fresh water flowing from the Pascomanset River. Efforts made recently to restore that waterway have also benefited the Slocum River. It is a work in progress, but we're heading in the right direction, I think. As we head back south and out toward the sea, or out toward Buzzards Bay, you may notice several poles that appear to rise out of the marsh on either side. These poles are actually built or placed there by man to encourage the nesting of the fishhawk, also known as the osprey, one of the fowl or birds that have made a strong comeback along the Slocum River. Keeping with the rehabilitation of the wildlife along the Slocum River, the Audubon Society maintains property not too far away from this location, and largely through the efforts of Gilbert Fernandes and friends of the Audubon, several of these habitats have been installed to encourage the return of the osprey to the Slocum River, one of its natural habitats and a perfect location for its nesting. As we make our way back toward the entrance or the exit of the Slocum River on the western shoreline, you see one of the man-made osprey stands. This one has a nest built upon it. Again, part of the restorative efforts, bringing back the wildlife, including the osprey or fishhawk, to the Slocum River. The efforts of Gilbert Fernandez and the Audubon Society have shown a positive result in the return of the fishhawk to this body of water and elsewhere through Dartmouth. As we exit the Slocum River on this day, the tide has dropped slightly. We're heading along the shore back toward Little River Bridge and exiting in an area referred to and known on charts as the Cow Yard. Provides the only access out of the Slocum River that does not take us over the sandbar at Deepwater Point. That sandbar shifts annually, if not monthly, or more often than that. And the entrance and exit to the Slocum River at less than full tide needs to be known and charted locally so that we can get in and out of there when the tide is not favorable. We're now moving down the eastern side of Mission Point, making our way toward Salters Point and the Round Hill area. Salters Point is also a gated community close to the entrance to Mission Point. It sticks out slightly into Buzzards Bay. There's some protection for the mooring area at Salters Point from an outcropping of rocks installed just running northeasterly from Mission Point and Salters Point. Race rocks, called the jetty that protects the mooring area at Salters Point. The Salters Point mooring area, which is on the north or eastern side of Salters Point, sits behind this rock pile known as Hunt's Rock. It's a barrier, smaller break wall that protects the mooring field itself. This is an area of roughly 50 moorings that provide access for the boats to that largely summer community. As we pass by Salters Point and Meadow Shores, on the eastern end of Round Hill is Dumpling Rock. Dumpling Rocks mark the entrance, or one of the entrances, to New Bedford Harbor. Dumpling Rock once had a lighthouse. The lighthouse was built in 1828 for the sum of $4,000. It consisted of a two-story dwelling with a lantern on its roof. The lantern was fixed white light 43 feet above the sea, visible for 10 nautical miles. The house, the light, were all destroyed in the 1938 hurricane. And the house was there because it was not automated. It was run by a lightkeeper. Just prior to the 1938 hurricane, the lightkeeper and his family had packed their automobile for a trip to Europe. Without the advance warning and knowledge that a hurricane was coming, their car and all of its contents were swept into the bay during the hurricane. The house itself was demolished, but stayed intact enough to preserve the life and safety of the lightkeeper's family. The house was never rebuilt and has been automated and run as an automated light by the United States government since then. It's one of the larger rocks outcroppings between Dumpling Rock and the harbor is White Rock. As you can see, it's inhabited now by cormorants. Okay, we're entering Clark's Cove, the easternmost body of water that touches Dartmouth. Clark's Cove is partially surrounded with a hurricane barrier, an extension of the barrier that was built to protect the city of New Bedford. This section protects the south end and the mills that were prominent in that area when the barrier was built. Roughly 1/3 of Clark's Cove is actually Dartmouth water, and the 2/3 that are to the north and east of the cove are in New Bedford. Coming to the end of Dartmouth waters, which is found at the base or eastern end of Rogers Street, that stone jetty was rebuilt and is maintained by the Community Boating Center. That marks the edge of Dartmouth water. The area at the eastern end of Rogers Street in Dartmouth houses a community boating center and also now has a rehabilitated brownfield site. The former Park Oil Terminal has been converted to a parking area for waterway access by the Dartmouth Waterways Commission. As we move south from Rogers Street along Clark's Cove, there is the Amelia Jones Beach and Park. It's a Dartmouth public park, which also has a baseball diamond swimming facility maintained by the Dartmouth Park Department. Okay. Further south in Clark's Cove are the Hidden Bay condos, built primarily on the former Carmelite nun grounds. We're approaching the end of William Street in Dartmouth, which William Street does end at Clark's Cove and separates Clark's Cove from the Anthony Beach and Stone Ledge Beach area. Anthony's Beach is a private beach. Stone Ledge Beach is an association beach. These stately manors are at the end of High Street. We make our way back into Padenarm Harbor. We're passing by Ricketson's Point. There is a break in the breakwater for Padenarm Harbor, though it is not navigable. Padenarm Breakwater, which is a man-made structure, does provide protection to Padenarm Harbor from the southerlies, southeasterlies, and other ill-favored weather directions. The breakwall itself was built possibly by the Army Corps of Engineers or its predecessor. Origins are in dispute. However, it's marked on its western end by a dayboard and a light. That marks the entrance of the large number 8 to the entrance of Padenarm Harbor, Pontiac Bay. It is rather simple, breakwater light with a red 8 on the dayboard, followed to the north by a red nun 10 and a red nun 12. Mark the channel. There's also a smaller green can number 13. That marks the eastern navigable waterway. Staying within the marked channel provides adequate navigation for boats drawing at least 7 feet. Beyond that, it's based on tidal influences. The New Bedford Yacht Club on the approach from the south are the large structure with docks built on the eastern shoreline of Padenarm Harbor. Just west of Smith Neck Road in the harbor, or off the harbor, is the Apponeganset Salt Marsh, which is is an award-winning project by Dartmouth Town Conservation Agent Mike O'Reilly. Payden Bridge itself, constructed in several variations over time, was once a toll bridge turned by hand. Prior to that, there's evidence that it was actually a ferry, horse-drawn ferry across Payden Harbor in the Pontiac Bay. Currently operated and maintained by the DPW, bridge tender is on duty to open that span. It turns slowly, roughly April 1st to November 1st. Posted hours show that it opens on the hour, on the half hour in the early morning and late evening hours, but throughout the day on the hour, on demand only. Continuing north and to the west, primary access point for trailer boats at the Arthur F. Dias Town Landing has 2 boat ramps and a small pier facilitating the launching and retrieval of smaller boats. This western shore of the upper Pontiac Bay, Payden Harbor area once served as an outfitting station for whaling ships. This goes back quite a few years before the bridge bisected the harbor. Payden Bridge, which is operated and maintained by the Town of Dartmouth Department of Public Works, is manned from April 1st through November 1st. The Isabella, which is the Grand Banks schooner replica built by Bill Green, looks like a fishing vessel, and that was the intention. It's used as a private family sailing boat, and it's prominently kept at the end of Davis and Tripp's South Dock. South Wharf eventually passed on to the Howland family, and the Howland family from that facility made the Concordia yawls a mainstay of the Dartmouth waterfront. They were imported from Germany, brought to South Wharf, and finished as recreational yachts. The Howland family recently sold the parcel of land, or I guess there were more than one parcel there, that sold that land to Cape Yachts and South Wharf Yacht Yard.